Oh, good save, Brandon. Hey everybody, welcome back to Diesel Creek. My name's Matt. This sad little rusty relic here is a rare bird, and one that I am pretty excited about, believe it or not. This is a Michigan 12B model loader. Now, it's not currently set up as a loader, and we'll get to that here in a little bit, but a big part of my goal around here is to save and preserve historical equipment that helped build and shape the world that you live in today, from becoming razor blades or Priuses or Toyota parts or pick your poison. Basically saving stuff from the scrapper and helping it to live on, if not in my hands, in somebody else's hands that are gonna enjoy it and preserve it and continue to use it, because that's what this stuff is for. So we have what I judge to be a very rare specimen here today. As I mentioned, I've only been able to locate one or two other pictures of these online in my, I don't want to say exhaustive Google searching, but fairly extensive. Unfortunately, ours has been hacked up a little bit here. I found this little beauty sitting in our local scrapyard. While I was out there dumping off some actual scrap, I found this guy. So as all too often happens, I end up dragging more weight home from the scrapyard than I take in. But in this case, I'm pretty glad about it. So let's take a little walk around this thing, see what we're working with here. As you can tell, it's not a very big machine. It's especially not by the standards of things that I'm typically working with here. D8s have gotten to be a commonplace around the farm, and this guy weighs just a little fraction of that. I believe when I scaled out at the scrapyard, we were just over 7,000 pounds for this unit, which for as big as it is, that is kind of a heavy little lug. This rear counterweight is just one big solid hunk of what I assume is cast iron, or cast steel rather. And with that off of there, this thing probably doesn't have much picking ability though. So if you're into old equipment and this thing looks familiar to you, what you probably actually saw was a Huff model that was eventually acquired by International. Huff model HA. And they looked very, very similar. I assume that this machine was built to compete with that Huff model. There's a lot of those machines around, and like I say, not too many of these from what I'm seeing online. From the factory, this thing would have come with a bucket, not this fork attachment here that we've got going on. Somebody home built this onto there, but I tell you what, they actually did a pretty decent job. A couple issues that I did see is this cross member that they welded their tilt cylinders to could have been a bit beefier. It bent a little bit, but not too terrible. Same thing down here, their vertical post that they made here, it bent right at the top of their gusset plate. If they would have just ran that gusset plate up as wide as this vertical post, I don't think they would have had any trouble there at all. That would have been super stout. But the cool thing about what they have rigged up here is, not only do the forks go up as high as that carriage, but you can still lift them independently with the loader boom, so that whole assembly will go up, and I bet you could actually get the forks up there pretty darn high like that. Unfortunately, with their modification, they seemingly gas-axed the original curl cylinders for the bucket. So the bucket would pin on down bottom there, and I'm not sure exactly what all we're missing here. I'll have to get some better pictures from a guy I know that has one. But the original curl cylinders would have been in this general area somewhere. These are not them. So we're missing that. Unfortunately, this is a gas job. I am a diesel aficionado, as you might guess. But all these small engines back in the day were pretty much gassers. There weren't too many small diesel engines, at least popular ones way back in the day. This is a Waukesha 1800 KB. I'm just guessing that it's somewhere in the 35 horsepower range. Tires all the way around this thing are not the best. There's, of course, zero traction going on up there with that street tire. This steer tire's got a large chunk of the tread missing and more on its way out. That one there's not too bad. This one here, a bit low. And one other thing I noticed a bit ago, when they apparently took this thing into the scrapyard, the first thing the scrapyard started doing was cutting off all of the wheel studs that hold the wheel on there, because of course you can't scrap a rubber tire. And they torched off all of our wheel studs. Did a pretty good job on that rim too. If we can get this thing running and operating, then we'll worry about that. I bet you it's actually still galled on there pretty good. So personally, I have never run one of those Huff HA models, but from what I was looking around online, they're still kind of like a manual transmission machine, so you actually have to slip a clutch and work a gear shifter to go forward and backward, plus your hydraulic controls and steering and whatnot. This machine is set up a bit nicer than that actually, so I'm pretty excited to have this one compared to a Huff HA, because I've always kind of fancied those machines and wouldn't have minded picking one up for the right price. This machine is set up a lot more like a normal wheel loader or a forklift, where you just have a shuttle shifter here between forward, neutral, and reverse. And then your loader controls are down here. So you have your main boom and then the bucket curl. I don't know exactly what all they have rigged up here right now, because this valve block here is obviously aftermarket. I don't think anybody originally mounts a valve block right on a loader arm like that, but that is rigged up to control the fork assembly here, from what I can tell anyway. So anyway, just from a cursory walk around, it seems like she's all here minus the seat and a battery, and I don't know anything else about it. This thing would have looked pretty sharp in its day with the cutout Michigan thing going on here. Pretty nice. Let's see about getting this hood up and out of here so we can see what's going on in the engine compartment. Not sure what to make of that. They have like tie wire holding on this hood thing. I'm missing something. It's not actually like connected to the hinge. Looks like if I just cut this tie wire, the hood will just lift up and off of here. Yeah, I think we're missing like some heavy springs or something like that. It's a very weird hinge setup they got going on. How I wish I had an overhead crane.
If I only had a crane.
All right, now that we took a little off the top, let's start checking on the condition of this engine. So the exhaust is kind of wide open there, but it's not pointed skyward, so hopefully it hasn't taken any water into it. Looks like they brazed that on there. Leaves all through it. Where's the dipstick, Jimmy? Looks like I brought a whole oak tree worth of leaves in with me. Where is the dipstick? Or is this the dipstick? Oh, yeah, stupid, that's the dipstick. Well, there's nothing on the dipstick, so I don't know what to make of that. How about the old coolant? Do we have coolant? No, we have moist residue. Maybe that's signs of coolant in the past. Things aren't looking so hot here. Is the engine stuck? That's gonna be the big one. Let's see if I can get this engine to turn. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, she turns over. Beautiful. Well, I guess that's about all the convincing I needed to just dive on in here. Start figuring this thing out. Looks like our air cleaner's just sitting in here, I think. I'll try to get this thing out of the way for now, at least. Just till we see what's going on here. One air cleaner deleted. So just looking around here at the whole situation, there's our carburetor down here. The fuel line is cut off of it. Like I said, the governor linkage right here is no longer connected to the backside of the carburetor there. Over on this side, it looks to me like this is an aftermarket fuel line coming down here. They have just a gravity filter, an inline filter right there, and it probably went around to the carburetor somehow or another, but no longer. If we look down here behind that is the original lift pump, mechanical, driven off the cam, no doubt, and some sort of a filter screen down there, if you can see that, like a sediment bowl for the fuel. You can see it kind of right there below that hydraulic hose. So they bypassed that at some point, so it hasn't been used for a long, long time. Got your distributor, your plug wires, they look decent enough to run. The coil, though, is hanging here like a bat, upside down, which isn't super uncommon. I've definitely seen many machines or cars with upside down coils on them. The problem is, what you see here is this one's covered in oil, and it seems like when you mount them upside down, they're just prone to the seals going out of them, and it lets the oil that keeps the coil cold, or cool-ish, the oil starts leaking out of them, they run out of oil, and the coil just burns up. So there's a chance that coil works, but there's also a chance that it does not. Oh, and I just noticed this guy right here. Looks like our original fuel line that somebody has cut off. It looks like it ran down here to this side of this lift pump at one time. I like the reliability of a mechanical lift pump, but when they sit for a long time, the gaskets harden up in them, and eventually they fail, and that lets gas go into the crankcase of the engine, which can cause lots of problems too. Okay, here's the original fuel line, it looks like, that went over to the carburetor. I don't know if you guys could hear that, but it's it's not in good shape, okay? That's probably out. Gonna have to run a new fuel line. As far as the operator compartment goes, it looks like it's in pretty decent shape. All the gauges are intact and everything. None of them look like they're destroyed. But he even has a fuel level gauge. Pretty nice machine. I'd say this is pretty well equipped for its day. I'm guessing this is mid to late 50s. I'm just guessing. Hydraulic tank under the seat here. I have no idea if there's any oil in it yet. And then I just pulled the lid off of the fuel tank here, which is under the dash. Let's have a gander in there. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's full of rust, but it doesn't look like it's like rusted through or anything. It's just a lot of surface rust piled up in there, so should be able to vacuum that all out. Oh, look at that too. That's pretty sweet. This is embossed. It's been painted over a bunch of times, but it's embossed with the word Michigan right across there. That'll look pretty cool, all painted up someday. There's another interesting observation I've just made. These lift cylinders, these are the main cylinders that lift the whole boom up. They're just a single acting cylinder. So what that means is oil goes in the bottom and pushes the cylinder out, but there is no power down. You don't have any force to push down with. That is interesting. Yeah, I guess you'd be able to hold the cylinder wherever it lay, but you don't actually have down force on that cylinder. Interesting. I don't know why, but this thing leaning to the left here is just driving me nuts. So I'm gonna grab the compressor, throw some air in these tires, hopefully get it leveled up there. Make it a little bit easier for me to work on, I guess. I guess before I start really diving into things here, I want to clean out all these leaves and everything and just make it so I can see everything there is to see. Well, we got the whole floorboard cleared out there. Can actually see what's going on up under there now. The lid for the brake reservoir is over there underneath the brake pedal. It was good we cleaned that out. I didn't know where that even was. I figure while the vacuum's out though, I'm gonna get after this fuel tank and try to vacuum out all that rust. See what it looks like when that's all cleaned out. Yeah, trying to vacuum out a fuel tank sucks. Well, It's a lot better than it was, but there's definitely still some rust in there. I'm gonna pull this plug out of the hydraulic tank, see what we're looking like in there for fluid. And then I grabbed a battery. I want to hook a battery up to this thing and see if that engine's gonna whirl over with the starter. Oh yeah, she's got oil, plenty of it. Looks pretty thin, but heck, it's right up to the full mark. Beautiful. It's maybe not the clearest. Yeah, if we get it running, I think we'll end up draining it, putting some fresh stuff in there because that looks a bit murky, but it's got it. You know what? Actually, I wonder if there's maybe some water in there underneath the oil. I'll look around and see if there's a drain on the bottom of the tank. If there is, I'll crack it open and check for water. Well, I was about to climb underneath here looking for that drain plug, and I found another clue. There's two different oils dripping here on the floor. One of them's black, looks like engine oil. The other one's red, looks like transmission oil, which makes sense if it would go to this Automagic transmission here. But I have not seen a transmission fluid reservoir, so we gotta keep looking for that. Oh boy. That wheel seal on that side is blown out, apparently, because it is drenched that wheel over there in axle oil, it looks like. Yeah, there's a drain plug. Of course, it's not in a great spot. There's the old fuel lines right here, the new fuel lines right here. I think this old, newer fuel line is reusable, so I don't want to cut it. The wiring harness is tucked in here. It's all in the way. You know, for as old as this thing is, it's not caked in pounds and pounds of grease and gunk like I see a lot of machines. I don't know if that's a good sign or a bad sign. Oh yeah, there's some water. We're already getting some oil coming out though. I got not a lot of water in there. Some nastiness down in there though. I'm gonna let that go for right now. All right, let's get this battery in here and see if this thing's gonna crank over for us. Well, nothing's on fire yet, so I'll take that as a good sign. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and try to hit the key and see if anything happens. You guys watch that fan, see if it twirls over. Oh, we got a fancy light on the dash here. That's a good sign. Can I get a contact? We got relay clickage. Well, you know work. This is just one of those cheapo relays. Contacts might just be dirty. If you hit it about 1,000 times, sometimes they work. Hey, look at that, it cranks over. Nice. Well, that's good news. Our little Waukesha cranks over okay there. Doesn't sound bad. It sounds like it's cranking pretty even, so call that a win. Couldn't get it to work with the starter button. I actually took the jumper and went underneath and got the starter right on the hot side of the starter there. So at a minimum, I guess we need a starter relay. I was also underneath here looking around. I don't know how well you guys can see right now. It looks like the drain plug has been loosened out of the engine. So maybe they already drained the oil when it got to the scrapyard, and that's why there's no oil in this thing. They were nice enough to put the plug back in. They just didn't tighten it up, so it's just dripping. Well, we got that solenoid changed out there. Also went ahead and put a new lead up to the battery. Let's hit the key now and see if this thing's gonna crank over. Oh yeah! All right, so we're making headway here. That's good. So I don't want to crank it over very much because there's no oil in it. I want to go down there and put the oil drain plug back in all the way, but I guess I might as well pull it out first, make sure it is completely drained. I think it is. I want to pull the filter out. If I don't have one on the shelf here, we'll put that back together, throw some oil at this thing, see if we got spark. If we got spark, we'll add fuel, and hopefully this baby lights off. Check out that old filter, huh? ACP209. That's pretty cool. Well, I kind of doubt I have one of those on the shelf, but I'll run it through the cross-reference and find out. Well, believe it or not, books are still good for something, but not this book. We got P109. We jump down here to 203, 204, and then it goes clear up to 301. We don't have a 209 cross-reference, so useless. Houston, we've got a problem. Our oil pan is broke. So it looked like the drain plug was just loose until I came down here with the flashlight and investigated a little bit better. It's not just loose, it is broken out of the oil pan. So I'm not blaming the guy at the scrapyard, but at some point in this poor machine's handling, it looks like a fork probably went up there and smashed that drain plug, ripped it clear out of the oil pan there. That's a gaping hole below the plug there. Hope you guys can make that out. I don't know what we're gonna do now. That's kind of a showstopper. Got to be able to hold oil in this thing. Problem with buying machines out of the scrapyard is that they're not exactly cared for once they're dropped off at the scrapyard. How are we gonna fix this thing? I would say we'll just drop the oil pan, but I really don't think we can. I think both ends of the pan are trapped. When you drop the pan, it's going to sit down on this bar at this front end, and on the back end it's going to sit down on our axle. So we don't have any clearance to drop it down, short of pulling the engine, which, man, I really don't want to get into all that. Well, I jacked her up, got some cribbing underneath of it, so I don't feel like I'm going to get squished like a pill bug here. And now that I'm under here looking, oh man, the whole oil pan is just, she's in rough shape. I thought that bump in there was factory, but now, looking at it better, no, I don't think so. I don't think I can get this thing down very easily, but I guess I got nothing to lose here. I'm gonna go ahead and zap all the bolts out of this oil pan, and we're gonna try to take it down at least. I don't know if we'll get it out or not. Well, things are really shaping up here. I found that there are oil pan bolts that are underneath the axle that you cannot get to. So, I think I can pull the axle pivot pin out and drop the axle down a little bit. That'll give me access to those bolts. Plus, that'll mean that I can drop the oil pan once we have it loose. And I think I can get it out of there then. So, here's to hoping. Yep, things are going well here. What I'm trying to pull against here, this counterweight now, not exactly a perfectly square surface to the pin that we're trying to pull, so I gotta get some shims and try to shim this header block here. I don't know. It might work. We're getting some pressure. This is one of those setups where the whole thing just launches into my garage door. I don't have a crazy amount of pressure on there, but we are only pulling on 1/2 inch 13 nut. Very good odds that this pin has never been removed in the life of this machine. We're pulling through 3, maybe 4 different fits. She's just seemingly pretty darn stuck. Oh, might have moved. Something happened. We might have movement. Wrong movement. Take 2. Got a new puller bolt welded on here. Almost 3,000 PSI. I think it's moving. Must be, because we're not getting over 32. Yeah, the pin did move, so we're making progress, just extremely slow. Well, I'm gonna give this one more shot here, and if this doesn't work, I don't know what we're gonna do. I think it's going. Hey! We're holding right around 3,000 PSI, but it comes down as soon as I let off the stroke each time, so we're pulling. It's moving. Ha ha! Oh yeah, it's getting easy now. The pressure's dropped way down. We got her! We got it! Oh yeah, baby. Well, that's the end of the stroke. Ha ha! Ha ha! This is a picture of success. All right, now, if I did this right, I'm gonna lower the jack and the axle will just drop right down. I dropped the rear axle here, as you guys saw, got it down, and I thought with that down I would be able to get to the oil pan bolts and then sneak the oil pan out of there without removing the engine. Turns out that won't happen. So this is the axle you're looking at here on the left, but then it extends and goes all the way back there to that rear pivot mount, and it's all one piece, and it won't drop any lower because it hits on the counterweight. Well, pulling the counterweight turns into a whole big fiasco. It's not very many bolts, but it's a procedure. I'm also supporting the whole machine off the counterweight right now, so I gotta lift it and try to find a way to re-support it better. And then even at that, if I do get the axle down out of there all the way, I still can't quite get to the oil pan bolts. I can see like half the head sticking out there, and there's just no conceivable way that you're gonna be able to get those bolts out. And even if you do, you're not going to be able to get the pan out, I don't think, because the pan still kind of sits up on top of that engine mount. So, I think the only thing we could really feasibly do here is remove the counterweight and then unbolt the engine, yank the whole engine out of there, and then get to our oil pan and hopefully replace it or at least repair it. We're really opening up a whole can of worms here if we get this deep into this thing. okay. Everything I touch. That was way harder than it needed to be. That's a beefy little counterweight though, huh? Look at that sucker. Woo! This radiator on this little mini Michigan, I don't think it's ever been off of here, but it still has the original like metal band clamp thingies on here that like you roll up the end when you're done. Trying to open up the radiator drain here and it is stuck. And the liquid coming out of there looks like straight water. More bad news for this poor little guy. Yeah, that's some good looking stuff, huh? Yeah, nothing but the finest. I'm sure this thing was never abused at all. These old radiator hoses really get stuck on here. I should probably just cut it off of here and get a new hose, because I'm sure it's seen better days. Okay, there we go. Things get a little more interesting down here in the bottom though. Apparently this radiator is segmented up into some sort of an oil cooler as well. I believe this line here comes from the transmission filter right there. And it goes down there into the bottom of the radiator, and that line there runs over to the other side. It's gonna become a mess. And this radiator is gonna be expensive if we would have to replace it. I love all the different colors that the coolant turns. My guess would be a lot of rust down here at the bottom, but what do I know? Yep, transmission cooler. Ta-da! Ugh. What a mess. Anyways, there's just a bunch of wires and hoses and other little stuff to disconnect now, and then hopefully we're ready to pull this engine out of there. After we have the engine out, hopefully we'll finally be able to drop this stinking oil pan. Now, I do not have an exact year model on this thing. I'm guessing it's from the 50s. And there's a chance that this engine has never been removed before. And it's putting up one heck of a fight. I've double checked, I have all the bell housing bolts out of here, but we're not getting any separation, so I'm gonna try to get a little pushing with porta power here. Hopefully we can get something cooking. There we go. There we go. Yeah, she was really stuck on there. I think we finally got her loose. What a struggle for such a teeny little machine. Oh, good gravy. This hard hydraulic line right here was, man, such a struggle. It was kind of like this kink in it here went like up and around the bell housing and was holding it in there. Yeah, that was great. So there's our beautiful little Waukesha. She's nothing fancy. Let's go ahead and finally knock this oil pan off there. That's an interesting bolt. Better not lose those. Oh! Congratulations, it's an oil pan! Smells like gasoline in here. But everything looks okay. I don't see anything sticking out at me. There's a lot of sludge in this pan, though. Yeah, a little bit of sludge in here. Oh, yeah. Chocolate pudding. Oh, right on the floor. All right. Let's get this cleaned out. That is bad. All right, well, we got the heavy stuff out of there on the solvent tank, but still got a lot of solvent residue, of course, and still lots of grime on this side that really needs like kind of scrubbed off. So this is the part where we throw it in the Temco parts washer, the old hot water parts washer, and that'll get us the results we're looking for. You could absolutely throw that thing in there the way it was, but it just contaminates your water faster, and you got to do more changes and cleaning out the tank and everything. So I always try to take the heavy stuff off before we stick her in the hot tank. And 30 minutes ought to do her. All right, she just kicked off. Let's see what we got. Not too bad. Beautiful. It's about as clean as you're going to get, I guess. Now I just hope that we can save this pan. Alright, so this project is quickly taking over the shop here. We're spreading this mess out throughout the entire building here. Got the oil pan over here on the workbench now, and we're hopefully going to do some healing on this thing. It's pretty rough. I don't know if you can see how caved in this thing is. Not good. There's the real thing that we're most desperately need to fix. My original thought with this threaded bung here was that we're gonna hammer it down as best we can, get it really close to where it was or where it's supposed to be, and then just weld it back up. But then I realized, since we cleaned it really good and I can actually see what I'm looking at now, that oil pan is brazed originally, like the threaded insert. They brazed it in from the factory. So I can't weld it. I do have some brazing rod essentially that I can run with a TIG welder. I'm not very good at it. I also do have brazing rod for the torches, but I'm not very good at that either. And yeah, so this is probably gonna get ugly, but I'm gonna do what I can here. We're gonna start by trying to knock the dents out of it and getting things looking like they're supposed to again. My big concern is that while I'm beating on this thing and trying to flatten it back out, it's gonna end up caulking the whole, you know, flatness of it. We're gonna distort the whole thing. And we already have a little bit of rocking action going on there, so it's already not quite right. Just hopeful that it's got enough bolts around it that it'll kind of draw it all down. We're gonna put a nice big gob of RTV around this thing when we seal it back up and hope for the best, I guess. Alrighty, that turned out like way better than I expected. You see the oil drain bung is still a little bunged up. It's not quite straight in the oil pan, but you know what, it's good enough. And I think that is a brazeable joint. Again, I'm definitely not a brazier. Is there a different word for that? Someone that brazes things? I don't know. Anyways, I guess we're gonna fire up the torch set and see what we can do here, because, well, I don't think that I can weld that. Alrighty, well, let's give this a go. It's been many, many years since I've brazed anything. I've already cleaned this up about as good as I can, but I'm gonna give it a good heat here to burn off any dirty stuff that's left behind here. Well, it ain't pretty, but it's working, I think. All right, well, it's probably not the prettiest braze job you've ever seen. And I need to let it cool down. We'll clean it up real good, make sure we don't see any visible holes in it. If not, we're gonna put a little water in that pan, make sure it holds water. I think this might actually work. So there's what it looks like on the inside, which isn't the greatest, but it doesn't really matter what it looks like on the inside. On the outside here, I think we got her sealed up pretty good. I did have to clean it up and touch up one little spot there, but overall, pretty happy with it. So, I am gonna go get a bottle of water, and we're gonna dump some water in there and let it sit there, and hopefully there's no leaks by the time I come back in the morning. That ought to do it. So, we're going to keep an eye on it, check it in the morning. Hopefully there's no water droplets sitting there on the table. But I think we got it. Well, what's the big word? Did it leak? Did we fix it? Oh, I don't see any drops of water. Feeling pretty confident. Alrighty, well, with the oil pan repaired, we need to start thinking about how we're going to seal this bad boy up. The original gasket is, what's the word I'm looking for? Brittle. So I guess we're going to scrape all this original gasket off of there. It is just completely falling apart. Super, super soft. Flaky. Not going to do anything anymore. We'll get all this out of here, clean it all up really good, and I think we're just going to lay down a gray RTV and let it tack up, and then we'll put that oil pan on here. Alrighty, I think that'll do it. Okay, well, we got our engine hanging here by the old temporary crane, and it's finally time. We're gonna fill this bad boy up with some oil, and hope it doesn't leak, first of all. Second of all, hope we can play around here and get this thing fired up. Okay, well, we're a little over full on the dipstick, but we are slightly leaning down towards the dipstick, so that should be about right. Also, so far, no oil leaks. Great success. What an absolute unit. So, I want to try to actually start this thing before we would even think about putting it back in the machine. So we have a few things to do. We got to put our starter back in for one. Our oil pressure port is down here, so I'd like to rig up a gauge on there to make sure we have some sort of oil pressure before we let her rip. And we're going to need to put a 12-volt source and a coil to the distributor here, and probably end up cleaning the points to get spark. And then the old carburetor. It's kind of a crapshoot what's going on in there, but we're going to see what we can do with that. Hopefully get some fuel to it, and hopefully it lights off. Now before we throw it back in, have a look at our starter here. So, good old school starter. It has an oil cup here on the back end where you can put a little bit of oil down in there, keep that bearing lubricated up, which is nice. This starter, though, has one on the nose cone as well, and I've never actually seen that on a starter. I mean, it's not really like a serviceable place. Like, you'd have to take the starter out to oil that, but pretty neat. So I'm going to put a few drops of oil in those, and we're going to slap it back in that engine. All right, starter's lubricated. Let's reinstall it. I just realized too with this starter, the way it mounts in the machine, the oil cups are upside down, so what do those actually do for you? Nothing. Couldn't find my original bolts, so we grabbed a couple more out of the old boltandnut.com cabinet. Is she gonna crank again? Oh yeah! I like it, sounds good. I'm gonna crank it till I see a little bit of oil come out of this oil pressure test port. There we go, we got oil coming out. Why did it almost sound like it was gonna start? We don't have spark. Well, we're getting really close. I threw a temporary tank up here, it's hanging from these chains. The fuel's shut off currently at the moment, but I got it plumbed into our carburetor. I'm gonna pull the drain off the bowl in the carburetor and let some fresh fuel flush through there. Hopefully that can save us from having to actually take the carb off and clean it, because, well, I'm just being lazy at this point. Well, we're getting fuel into the carburetor, but it's definitely not going as fast as it should be. All right, we're flowing better now. All right, so with the fuel supply all connected here, I went ahead and connected up a coil over here to the distributor, and I just threw an extra spark plug in there right now so we can check for spark. I'm betting that we're gonna have to take the cap off the distributor and clean those ignition points before we're gonna have spark, but hey, a guy can dream, can't he? So connect this to ground right here. That should give us 12 volts hot to the coil. Let's go ahead and crank this thing and see what is gonna happen. Can I get a contact? Holy crap, we do have spark. Ha! I would have bet money that we did not. Oh, you know what else we have? We still have to plug that oil port or find a gauge that'll fit it. Well, this looks more complicated than it is, but I think we're ready to go here. I rigged up an oil pressure gauge into the port down there. We got our fuel, we got our spark. I can't believe we had spark. Like, the fact that this thing still has spark when it's been sitting for a long, long time, that's impressive. Hopefully the carburetor works good enough just to start this thing up and run it for a minute. Obviously, if it does start and run, we're not going to be able to run it very long because we don't have a radiator or anything. But yeah, let's see how this goes. This could be a little bit difficult because I kind of need to be on both sides of the engine at the same time to work the carburetor and hit the starter, but gonna do what we can here. All right, here we go. Contact. No way, that started really easy. Listen to how good this thing runs. And man, did it blow a lot of crap out of the exhaust. Oh, oh. Oh, crap. That's a problem. What has happened here? Oh, I see what happened. Seems that we have a problem with our oil filter housing here. I did pop the lid off of this clear back before I even thought about pulling it out of the machine. Right after I had first drug this machine into the shop, I pulled the cap off to check the filter out and gonna order a filter, and then we ran into all the problems that we've run into here, and it seems like the seal is just not sealing anymore, so we're dumping oil all over the ground there. But man, did you hear how good this thing ran? Ha! I can't believe it. I mean, this thing runs like beautifully. I am very impressed. We're gonna throw a couple more pig mats on that and maybe see if I can't seal up that canister and let it run a little bit longer. But wow, that thing started right up, and Lord only knows how many years it's been since this thing has run. I guess let's try this again. Contact. Probably shouldn't go wide open like that. Woo! like I said, we can't run this thing very long, but I am going to start it up one more time. It's not very warm yet. I just want to see what kind of oil pressure we have at idle. I've been kind of busy here to really see it every time I've run it now. I'm going to let it sit for a little bit here, cool down, and then maybe I'll start it one more time and check that pressure better. Man, I cannot believe how well this thing runs for just coming out of a coma like that. Not even a coma, coming back from its grave, really. Oh yeah, that's how you know you've got it warm enough there. It's burning whatever coolant off in the head that was still lingering around there. It's burning it off, so we better stop. We'll call that a wrap on running it for right now until we have a radiator hooked up. But I've seen all I need to see. That thing runs great. The big mystery here to me is what is different with this carburetor than whatever was originally supposed to be on here, I guess, because, you know, this is your governor arm linkage. This is what's supposed to control the throttle. You know, you got your foot throttle input on this side, but then the governor arm is supposed to control the throttle from the back side of the carburetor, and there's nothing back there to connect it to. It's like somebody replaced the carburetor with the wrong thing, I guess. So we're gonna have to figure that out. And yeah, we could just toss it right back in here now, put it all back together exactly like it was, and probably have a functional unit. But you see where we're at right now, right? Some of you folks that have been around the channel for a long time now might remember a little project called Christine, the grader. We're kind of back in that exact same position that we were in. We had to yank the engine out for some other reason just to get the thing working. But man, now that it's out of there, I cannot put that thing back in there without blasting and painting this thing. I know I'm gonna fix this machine. This thing is too neat, too cool, too unique to not fix. And man, it runs phenomenal. So, we essentially just opened a big can of worms. That is essentially me throwing my hat in the ring for a full-blown restoration. So I'm sure the comments are just exploding right now as I'm telling you this. We've got another restoration project started. We need to finish this one before I can dive any further into this one. So we know we have a good power plant now. I don't have any reason to believe that the rest of the machine is not just fine. I mean, this is pretty robust components. I don't really foresee any major problems there. I'm gonna start trying to exercise a bit of self-control though. We're gonna finish up the auto car project before I dive full bore into this one. We gotta try to get some stuff done and finished up. So this thing is gonna get backburnered for a while, and I know that you guys are gonna say, well, he's never gonna touch that again. I know it might seem like that at times, but I promise you, you're gonna see this thing again. It's really cool. I am really excited about this machine, but I'm gonna try to focus all my efforts into the auto car now at this point and try to get this thing wrapped up for you guys, for myself and for you guys. We have a very big uplifting project coming to the shop very soon here, so I can't be loading the shop up with a bunch of junk. I have to keep projects kind of nimble in here. So before we blow this thing apart any further, it's going to get palletized and sent back out of the way for right now. But we will be revisiting this thing as soon as possible. Michigan 12B doesn't exactly roll off the tongue, so I need you guys' ideas. Put some comments down below there. What would be a good nickname for this project? Because it needs something. It was a lot of work, and we definitely opened up a new can of worms, but overall, I'm happy with the outcome. So if you guys like this video, do me a big favor. Hit that thumbs up button down below the video. It really helps out the channel. Doesn't cost you guys a dime. If you would like to help support the channel in a little more direct fashion, you can always head on over to dieselcreek.com. Pick yourself up some sweet swag over there at the store. That's dieselcreek.com. Link, as always, down in the description there. We've got hats, koozies, sticker packs, t-shirts, hoodies, all that and more over at the store. That's dieselcreek.com. Semi-Supervillains.com. Link, as always, down in the description. Now, that's not the end of the story, but it is the end of the video. So, as always, I want to thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video. Later!